two little girls were asked to choose their future. One picked wealth. The other picked love. But only one survived. Reborn with the memory of a life that ended in betrayal, Erin Lee now has one choice. And if she chooses wrong again, someone she loves will die. This is the story of the girl who rewrote her fate. Welcome back to StoryBridge TV, where every story is a bridge between hearts. To all my loyal subscribers, thank you for being here. And to every new viewer who just joined our family, thank you for hitting that subscribe button. Your support means everything. Settle in, take a deep breath. Today's story might stay with you long after the video ends. In a quiet adoption hall, two young sisters stood between two waiting families. On one side, the wealthy Han family, polished and elegant, offering a life of privilege. On the other, the humble Wu family, visibly struggling but radiating warmth and sincerity. The girls had been told they must choose, and in their past life, that single decision sealed their fates. Erin, dazzled by the illusion of wealth, reached for the Han family, while her sister May walked toward the Wu family, believing that kindness mattered more than status. What none of them knew then was how painful the consequences would be. Erin's new life inside the Han mansion began beautifully from the outside. Marble floors, shimmering chandeliers, and servants moving in perfect formation. But behind the luxury lay coldness. In the Han household, children did not speak unless spoken to. Affection was not given freely, and an adopted daughter, especially one without status, was expected to obey, serve, and stay invisible. Erin was treated more like a maid than a child. She washed dishes, cleaned floors, and endured punishments for mistakes she never made. The warmth she had imagined was nothing more than a mirage. Her childhood became a quiet collection of lonely nights and silent tears. Across town, May grew up in a very different world. The Wu family had little, but shared everything. Meals were simple, yet filled with laughter. The home was small, but filled with gentle hands and soft voices. There was no wealth, no status, no luxury, just love. And on some nights, Erin would watch from afar, seeing her sister held close, protected, and cherished. Each glimpse deepened the ache in Erin's heart. If only she had chosen differently. As the years passed, the weight of the Han household slowly crushed her. Erin worked endlessly, slept rarely, and lived in fear of disappointing a family that never wanted her. Until one winter night, her body could no longer keep pace with the demands placed upon it. She collapsed in the cold, alone, unseen. Her final moments were filled not with anger, but regret. A quiet longing for the life she could have had, for the warmth she once rejected, and for the sister whose love she had left behind. Darkness wrapped around her, and her life came to a quiet, forgotten end. But fate was not finished with her. Moments before her soul let go, something pulled her backward. Through memories, through pain, through time itself. And suddenly, Erin opened her eyes, back in the adoption hall, back at the moment of choice, back before all the suffering began. The same two families stood waiting. The same future lay in front of her. But this time she carried the weight of an entire lifetime in her heart. A lifetime of pain, a lifetime of regret. And she knew she would not make the same mistake again. This time, she would choose differently. This time, she would choose love over illusion. This time, she would rewrite her fate. Erin stood in the adoption hall, heart pounding in her chest. This moment had destroyed her once, but now she held the power to change everything. With a steady breath, she stepped toward the Wu family, the family she once overlooked, the family that had offered warmth instead of wealth. Their eyes widened with surprise, then softened with hope. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, Aaron felt the presence of genuine love waiting for her. But behind her, May's expression twisted. In their past life, May had known kindness with the Wu family. This time, however, the allure of the Han fortune pulled her in like a dark current. She turned her back on Aaron and walked toward the wealthy family, toward the same cold mansion that had crushed Aaron's spirit before. Her final glance at Aaron carried a chill, the kind that warned of futures filled with rivalry, bitterness, and consequences none of them could predict. And in that moment, the path of the sisters switched completely. Returning to school was supposed to be a fresh beginning for Aaron, but some things never changed immediately. Whispers followed her down hallways. Old taunts resurfaced. Classmates who once bullied her stepped forward again, expecting the same quiet girl who never fought back. But Aaron was no longer that girl. Armed with the knowledge of another lifetime, she chose her battles wisely. She didn't lash out. She outsmarted. She answered cruelty with calm logic. She exposed lies without raising her voice. Slowly, the balance of power shifted. Teacher Lian, the one adult who had always treated her fairly in her past life, noticed the change. He saw her resilience, her intelligence, the quiet fire behind her eyes. For the first time, someone began to see Aaron not as a victim, but as a force rising from her own ashes. While Aaron slowly thrived, May stepped into the life Aaron once chose, and immediately encountered the hidden rot beneath the Han family's elegant surface. Behind the mansion's polished walls, the air was heavy with tension. Affection was conditional. Respect was demanded, never earned. And mistakes, no matter how small, were met with sharp words and cold stares. May, who had grown up surrounded by warmth, found herself suffocating under relentless criticism, every movement judged, every emotion dismissed, every request treated as a burden. The wealth she sought came with chains, restrictions on how she dressed, where she went, who she spoke to, how she behaved. Bit by bit, the shine of the Han lifestyle scraped away, revealing nothing but loneliness wrapped in gold. As May lay awake in that vast, silent mansion, she began to understand the truth Aaron had learned the hard way. Luxury without love is just another cage. And in the shadows of the Han estate, May realized she had willingly stepped into it. As the new school year settled into routine, Aaron moved through her days with a quiet steadiness that few paid attention to. But someone did notice. Leon Han. The eldest Han son had always been surrounded by noise, friends, expectations, and the constant weight of family reputation. But Aaron's presence was different. Silent, unassuming, almost invisible, until she wasn't. He saw her offering her lunch to a younger student who'd forgotten theirs. He saw her pick up notebooks dropped by a classmate too embarrassed to ask for help. He saw her stay behind after school, cleaning chalk dust off desks without being asked. Not grand gestures, not dramatic moments, just small pieces of kindness that most people walked past. Each observation stayed with him longer than he expected. There was something steady in her, a resilience that didn't need applause, a strength that wasn't loud. Leon found himself watching her more often, not with romantic intent, not yet, but with a soft, growing admiration he didn't know how to name. A girl he barely noticed in his past life was slowly becoming impossible to overlook in this one. Life with the Wu family was full of love, but their financial struggles were real. Bills piled up quietly. The fridge was often half empty, and though they never said it aloud, Aaron could see the worry in every tired smile. She refused to let them carry it alone. After school, Aaron began offering tutoring sessions to younger students. Mathematics, reading, exam preparation, anything she could manage. Her small earnings helped pay for groceries, school supplies, and medicine for Wu mother's aching joints. It wasn't much, but every coin mattered. Those tutoring sessions revealed another side of her. Patient, gentle, determined. The same strength that once helped her survive now helped her build. When she returned home late in the evenings, exhausted but hopeful, there was a quiet pride in her steps. Aaron was no longer a child waiting for rescue. She was someone lifting others with her own hands. And though the world still tested her, she faced each challenge with the steady heart of someone who had lived twice and refused to repeat her old mistakes. Just when Aaron's new life began to find balance, the storm arrived quietly, disguised as whispers in the hallway. A rumor surfaced overnight. A cruel, calculated lie. It claimed that Aaron had bullied a classmate, that she had mocked someone's family, that she looked down on anyone poorer than herself. None of it was true, but truth has never spread as fast as scandal. May, now living with the Han family, used her new status skillfully. A lifted eyebrow here, a sympathetic sigh there, a carefully chosen sentence spoken at the right time to the right crowd. Every seed she planted bloomed instantly. Classmates began avoiding Aaron. Some stepped out of her way in the cafeteria. Others uploaded vague posts on social media, mocking, vague enough to avoid blame, but specific enough for everyone to know who it was about. Messages flooded group chats, threads filled with accusations, screenshots taken out of context. By noon, Aaron's reputation was shattered. In a matter of hours, she had become the girl everyone whispered about, the one they used as the punchline to their jokes, the one no one dared sit with. The injustice burned, but Aaron had lived through far worse. Even so, the weight of being misunderstood pressed on her like a familiar, suffocating shadow. And this time, she felt the sting not because she was weak, but because she had spent a lifetime trying to rise above exactly this kind of cruelty. When the final bell rang, Aaron didn't walk home with the other students. Instead, she slipped into an empty classroom, the kind that still carried the warmth of sunlight on its desks, but felt painfully cold when silence filled the walls. She sat down in the far corner, hiding behind stacked chairs. Her hands trembled as she covered her face. The laughter from the hallway echoed faintly through the door. Not joyful laughter. The other kind. The kind that makes wounds deeper. Her strength had limits, and today, those limits cracked. She didn't sob. Her tears came quietly, like rain slipping down a window pane. Gentle, but unstoppable. She hoped no one would find her, but someone did. Leon had noticed her absence. He followed the faint traces of her day, the empty desk, the untouched lunchbox, the silence where her voice should have been. When he opened the classroom door, he saw her curled in the corner, a girl trying to disappear. Something inside him shifted. Not love, not pity. Something quieter, something deeper. A recognition of pain and the injustice of someone carrying it alone. Aaron wiped her tears, trying to compose herself, but the strain in her eyes revealed everything. She wasn't breaking because of a rumor. She was breaking because life was asking her to survive a lie she had already survived once before. And even in her silence, one truth lingered between them. Some battles hurt more when you know exactly how they're going to end. As the rumor continued spreading through the school like wildfire, one person refused to accept the chaos at face value. Teacher Leanne. He had watched Aaron closely since her return. Her composure, her kindness, her quiet strength. None of it matched the ugliness people were suddenly accusing her of. So, while the corridors buzzed with gossip, he quietly began to review security footage. Hours of it. Classrooms, hallways, stairwells. Every angle from the day the bullying allegedly occurred. And the more he watched, the clearer the truth became. Aaron had never bullied anyone. She had walked straight from class to the library. She had spent the morning tutoring, not tormenting. The accusations were built on shadows. And then, unexpectedly, someone stepped forward. The class president. She hesitated at first, torn between her fear of becoming the next target and the guilt of staying silent. But eventually, she gathered the courage to reveal what she knew. Aaron had been framed. Piece by piece, the truth began to surface. Screenshots were exposed as edited. Witnesses admitted to being pressured. Everything pointed back to intentional manipulation. The school, the students, and even the teachers started piecing together a picture that was far darker than the rumor itself. And all of it led to one person, May. When the truth finally reached the Hahn mansion, a storm erupted. Elder Hahn, known for his strict rules and unyielding pride, viewed the scandal not only as a moral failure, but as a stain on the family's reputation. And he reacted exactly as Aaron remembered from her past life. Coldly, publicly, without hesitation. He disowned May in front of the household staff, stripping her of the title she once wore proudly. To him, she was no longer the adopted daughter of a prestigious family. She was a liability. May, who once basked in the glow of wealth, suddenly found herself standing alone in a room where no one rushed to comfort her. The elegance she had chased so desperately now felt like ice against her skin. Her secrets were out, her manipulation exposed, her lies laid bare. She had framed an innocent girl. She had bullied her way into status, and in the process, she had destroyed herself. In her desperation, she broke. The girl who once believed she could reshape fate through deceit now faced the consequences she thought she could outrun. In that moment, the bitterness in her heart boiled over, twisting into a truth she could no longer hide, even from herself. She had lost everything. Everything she chose wealth for. Everything she sacrificed kindness for. And the person she envied most, the person she tried hardest to break, walked forward untarnished. May's downfall was not dramatic because of the yelling or the punishment, but because of the quiet realization that echoed inside her. Envy destroys from the inside out, and she had let it consume her completely. After the storm of the school scandal settled, Aaron found herself drawn back to the place where everything began, the orphanage she once tried so hard to forget. The building was old, quieter than she remembered, but still filled with the same familiar warmth. When Matron Yan stepped into view, age had carved deeper lines on her face, yet her eyes still carried the softness of someone who spent her life loving abandoned children. The reunion was immediate and overwhelming. Matron Yan embraced Aaron with a tenderness Aaron had rarely felt, and never truly appreciated in her past life. As Aaron followed her through the hallways, memories returned like waves. The small beds lined up in rows, the worn toys shared by dozens of little hands, the crackling speakers that once played lullabies at night. But it was the children that broke her heart the most. Some sat in wheelchairs, unable to move without help. Some had missing limbs or scars from past surgeries. Some lay quietly in cribs, too weak or too abandoned to cry. Others clung to nurses with the desperate attachment of those who had never known the safety of a family. Arin watched each of them with trembling breath. She remembered the selfish anger she once carried, the resentment toward her own life here, the belief that she deserved more, the way she had equated poverty with worthlessness. But now, standing among children who had so much less, her heart finally understood the truth. She had never been unloved. She had simply been too blind to see the love she already had. Tears gathered in her eyes as she knelt beside a crib, gently touching the tiny hand of a baby who had no one in the world. In that moment, she made a silent vow. A vow to return often. A vow to donate whatever she could. A vow to lift as many children as possible out of the loneliness she once knew. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, Arin felt grateful for where she came from, because it shaped the strength she now carried. As Arin found healing, May walked a very different path. Stripped of the Han name, rejected by those she once tried to impress, and left with no place to go, she dragged herself back to the orphanage, the only home she had ever known. But she didn't return as the confident girl who once looked down on Arin. She returned as someone unrecognizable, haunted, exhausted, hollowed out by the weight of her own choices. The orphanage halls echoed with memories she had tried so hard to escape. The same beds, the same walls, the same quiet that once felt temporary, now felt like a lifelong sentence. May moved through the hallway like a shadow. The bravado she used to wear like armor was gone. Every step exposed the truth. She had gambled her happiness on wealth and lost everything. When she finally broke down, it was not loud, not dramatic. It was the soft, collapsing kind, the kind that happens when a heart finally admits defeat. She understood far too late that chasing power had cost her every real connection she ever had. She had tried to earn love through status. She had mistaken luxury for belonging. She had believed that winning required someone else to lose. And now, she stood alone in the one place she never wanted to return to. Her fall was not defined by Elder Han's rejection, or by social humiliation, or even by Arin's growth. Her fall was defined by the realization that she had spent her entire life running toward the wrong things, and away from the only people who had ever loved her without conditions. In that heartbreaking silence, May faced the truth she had avoided since childhood. Love was never found in fortune. It was found in the very life she once tried to escape. And the tragedy was not that she lost everything, but that she never recognized what she had. The fall of the Han family did not come suddenly. It arrived like a slow spreading crack, quiet, invisible at first, and then devastating. For decades, Elder Han had built his empire on foundations polished to look flawless. But behind the gleaming towers and immaculate reputation lay years of buried corruption. Land seizures, illegal shortcuts, damaged communities, and voices that had been silenced whenever they tried to speak. And finally, those voices were heard. A whistleblower surfaced, documents leaked, investigations launched, news outlets erupted. The perfect facade collapsed overnight. Investors fled, partners withdrew, authorities surrounded the towering headquarters that once symbolized power. The Han fortune, once the very thing Aaron believed would save her in her past life, crumbled into dust. And somewhere in that chaos, May stood frozen. The family she had chased, the wealth she had fought for, the status she had clung to with desperate hands. All of it had been built on the suffering of others. For the first time, she saw it clearly. She had not just chosen the wrong path. She had run toward a world already destined to fall. The tragedy wasn't simply that the hands lost everything. It was that May had sacrificed her heart, her sisterhood, and her innocence for a kingdom made of sand. That same night, as the city lights dimmed under the weight of the scandal, Aaron stood alone outside the Wu family home. The air was cool. The world was quiet. And for a rare moment, she allowed herself to breathe. Footsteps approached behind her, gentle, hesitant. Leon had followed her into the shadows, drawn not by obligation, but by something quieter, a truth he had been carrying for some time. He stopped a few steps away, giving her space. And in that silence, his thoughts came together. Not as a confession, not as a plea, but as an acknowledgement. He admired her, not for her grades, not for her strength, not for any role she played in the Han family's story. He admired her because she had endured 2 lifetimes' worth of pain, yet stood here, steady, compassionate, and unbroken. Aaron didn't turn to face him immediately. Her gaze remained on the horizon, where sunrise would eventually appear. But her heart understood the weight of the moment. In her past life, she would have melted under that expression, hungry for approval, yearning for affection, desperate to be seen. But not anymore. This time, she carried the wisdom of suffering. This time, she understood that admiration is not the same as salvation, and love is not the same as peace. She breathed deeply, and her realization settled like a gentle truth. In her first life, she had chased validation that only destroyed her. In this life, she finally understood something far more precious. Healing mattered more than belonging. Peace mattered more than being chosen. And for the first time, she stepped fully into the woman she was meant to become. In the weeks following the Han Empire's collapse, the school invited Aaron to speak at an assembly. Not because of the scandal, not because of the rumors, but because her perseverance had become impossible to ignore. Students filled the auditorium. Teachers lined the walls. Even those who once believed the lies sat in quiet anticipation. Aaron stepped onto the stage, not with fear, but with the calm confidence of someone who had lived through 2 lifetimes and survived both. When she began to speak, the hall fell silent. Through the narrator's voice, her message unfolded, clear, steady, unforgettable. Aaron had learned that poverty was never a measure of a person's worth, that wealth was never a guarantee of goodness, and that the only inheritance that survived scandal, betrayal, and time itself was kindness. Her story was not just about suffering, but about choosing compassion over envy, humility over pride, and truth over convenience. In a world obsessed with status, Aaron reminded them that character was the only thing that could not be taken away. Her words settled over the crowd like rain on dry soil, soft, cleansing, impossible to ignore. It was not a speech about triumph, it was a speech about transformation. And by the time she stepped away from the podium, the entire room understood that they had witnessed something rare, the rebirth of a girl who refused to let pain define her. When Aaron walked out of the hall, The sun had dipped into a warm, golden haze. Students whispered her name with newfound respect, but Aaron paid no attention to any of it. At the bottom of the steps, the Wu family waited for her, eyes shining with tears they didn't bother to hide. Their hands opened to her, not because of her achievements, not because of her courage, but simply because they loved her. The same love she once overlooked, the same love she had fought 2 lifetimes to find again. Aaron stepped into their arms, and the weight of both her past and present finally settled into peace. In the quiet of that moment, a realization rose gently inside her, not spoken aloud, but clear as a heartbeat. This time, she had chosen right. And as the narrator closes the story, her journey becomes a message, not about destiny, but about the power of choosing love over illusion, kindness over ambition, and peace over pride. And if Aaron's story touched you, if her journey reminded you that strength can come from the gentlest places, then let her voice linger a little longer. Like the video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more stories that heal, inspire, and remind us that every choice, even the painful ones, can shape a brighter tomorrow.